Raise your hand if you consider yourself to be a global citizen. And this might mean that when you're voting, you consider candidates' foreign policy plans, or there's some global scope in the work that you do. So keep your hands raised if you think you're a global citizen. Now keep your hands up if you had some kind of experience, first-hand experience in the developing world at a formative time during your life. Keep your hands raised still if you think that without that experience, you would still have the same deep, visceral sense of global interdependence. How true it is that a mind stretched by global experience never returns to its original dimensions. For me, it began when I was 16 and I had the opportunity to live with a family in a rural village in Nicaragua. I spent the summer working in the fields, teaching in the school, and I had my sense of myself in the world radically transformed. The experience was so profound that I've ever since been committed to answering the question of how we can ensure that many more and more diverse young Americans have similarly transformative experiences of poverty and development at a younger age. So we all know that US schools are notoriously bad in preparing our young people for global leadership, but the statistics are stunning. 90% of American students can't find Afghanistan on a map of Asia, and 67% can't find Iraq, even though we've had troops there for the last 5 years. 74% believe that English is the most commonly spoken language in the world, when in reality, there are twice as many native speakers of Mandarin as there are of English. A third of US students believe that the US accounts for 30% of the world's population, when in reality, it's 5%. And my personal favorite, 73% of Americans and over 50% of our congressional representatives do not have a passport. Isn't it time for a passport to be necessary in running for federal office? Today, despite the importance of personal experience with poverty and development, less than 1% of Americans will ever meet any of the 3 billion people around the world who still struggle to survive on less than $2 a day. This fact has a profound impact on how Americans view and interact in the world. Programs like the Peace Corps require that students have a college degree, but for students at the critical juncture between high school and college, the only opportunities for international travel or global service outside the military are small and super expensive. Global Citizen Year will change this. How are we going to do it? First, we're going to engage colleges and universities across the country. Imagine thousands of high school seniors receiving acceptance letters that say, "Congrats, we'll see you in a year, take a Global Citizen Year." Next, we'll partner with NGOs around the world to create a vast network of placement sites for our young people. Finally, we'll bring in new resources from the public and private sector to create a new program that's accessible to kids regardless of their parents' ability to pay. Here's what it looks like. Each year, we'll recruit and train a diverse core of emerging leaders. We're not looking for academic all-stars. We're looking for kids with passion and potential, a bit like what Malcolm was talking about in terms of the cap gap. And we will bring these young people together in an intensive training, sort of like the training we just went through with the fellowship boot camp, thanks to Andrew and co. And we'll introduce them to social innovation, global systems, leadership development. The students then travel in teams to country posts in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, where they're introduced to local language and culture, and they spend the next 6 months working as apprentices with on-the-ground organizations, efforts in education, appropriate technology, public health, environmental conservation. All these kids speak English, they'll all have passion and real energy to give, and they all know technology, and there is no doubt that we can put those skills to constructive use. But the program doesn't end there. When the kids come back, we'll continue to support them in bridging their experience internationally to their communities at home. They go back to their local high school, organize assemblies, conferences, seminars to get others engaged in the experience that they had. It's not enough to travel and then feel like you're somehow elite or globally savvy, but instead you come back and you have a sense of what it really means to engage in the US context as an American civically with a global perspective, the new responsibility that that creates for you. And over time, we'll continue to support our alums as they move through college and figure out what to do with the rest of their lives. Our vision is of building a pipeline of social innovators who bring personal insight and real conviction to the fight against global poverty into positions of influence across all sectors. We're dreaming big. Imagine if every 18-year-old in this country spent a year working and living in the developing world before they began college. It's hard to imagine that the world would not begin to change. Today, we have a full business plan, an expert consulting team, and an all-star council of advisors, including the head of Teach for America, the head of CityYear, the head of the Peace Corps Association. We've begun to receive some publicity thanks to PopTech. We were recently featured in the New York Times, and we're just beginning to gather the resources we need to get off the ground. We're designing our pilot now, and our aim is to build our pioneer class so that 1 year from now, our first group of students will begin their global citizen year. With your help, we can reposition the U.S. role in the world. We can't afford not to. Thank you.